Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another installment in my Albums That Shaped Me series. I really appreciate y'all hopping on and watching these videos. I've gotten a lot of good response from it, and kind of been a few days between episodes of the series, so I'm happy to have another album to talk about here. Please subscribe and comment and like the channel and all that good stuff. I'm really kind of trying to get up to 700 subscribers. That would be great to finish off the around the first quarter of the year with at least 700 subscribers. So please subscribe if you haven't. I appreciate it. So yeah, let me just jump right into it. Again, I'm kind of building off of my first episode where I talked about the Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 album that came out. And obviously one of my favorite artists of all time, my favorite American band, are Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So I'm going to talk about some Tom Petty today. But I'm going to talk about Tom Petty's first solo album, Full Moon Fever, from 1989. So this is the album that came out between Wilburys albums. So this is between Volume 1 and Volume 3. You have Tom Petty with Jeff Lynne, obviously, who was in the Wilburys and one of the main producers of those Wilburys records. You also have, obviously, all over this record, Mike Campbell from the Heartbreakers. I think you have Benmont Tench playing a little bit of keyboard and maybe Lenny Castro on some percussion. But mostly it's going to be Tom, Jeff, and Mike doing most of the legwork here. There are some, it was Phil Jones playing some drums. You have George Harrison playing a little bit on the song I Won't Back Down. Jim Keltner's on here. Benmont plays a little bit, Benmont Tench. You also have Roy Orbison. So essentially, all of the Wilburys make an appearance with the exception of Bob Dylan on this record. So again, Full Moon Fever, Tom Petty, his first solo record. It would be the first of 3 solo albums, but again, all of Petty's albums included Mike Campbell in some capacity, to a pretty strong capacity, right down to the Mudcrutch albums that came out in the mid 2000s, 2008, 2017 for Mudcrutch and Mudcrutch 2. So anyway, let me just talk about some of the history behind this album. So again, I knew at this point, by the time I gotten into this album, I knew the Wilburys. I'd probably been into the Wilburys for about a year or so. And obviously, again, as I mentioned when I was listening to the Wilburys album, I knew the Tom Petty songs Free Fallin', and to an extent, I knew the song, Running Down a Dream. But I remember specifically the first time that I ever heard the song I Won't Back Down. That was during a tribute concert after 9/11 took place. And I remember finding it on YouTube. It wasn't when I was a kid, but it was later on when I was, able to get on the YouTube and start looking at videos. I came across a video of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers doing Won't Back Down in this very mellow, kind of somber tone. And they were doing it as a fundraiser for New York City, I believe, in the wake of 9/11. It might have even been 2002, like a year later. So they did a kind of an acoustic version of that, and I thought, wow, that's a beautiful song. It sounds like something that was, older. Come to find out, by that point, the song was, 15 plus years old, and I had no idea that, that song was an old one. So, that's those first memories I had of Won't Back Down. And again, at this point, by the time I was into this album, I would say probably 2009 into 2010. So freshman, sophomore year was when I was really getting into this, because 2008 was when I was really invested into the Wilburys. This album came out a little bit after I was into that, in terms of coming out into my musical, my musical circle of artists that I was listening to. And again, by this point, I was already playing guitar. I've been playing guitar for 2 or 3 years. And so, one of the earliest things that you learn on guitar is that intro to Free Falling, and of course I'm playing it in the D shape. So I'm playing a D sustained fourth, a D sustained with the second, and then the D, that D shape that's so often linked to a million different songs, that chord structure. And I thought it was so cool that I learned that. I had my nylon string guitar and I was playing, Free Fallin', and I just thought it was awesome. And so again, by this point, I got this album. I believe at this point my dad had already made me the burnt CD off of Napster that had some Petty songs on it. I want to say maybe Running Down a Dream was on that, but I'm not 100%. I think it was mostly stuff from the 70s and early 80s, like The Waiting, American Girl, Don't Do Me Like That, stuff like that. So I don't think, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think there was anything from Full Moon Fever. But again, listening to any kind of radio, you would hear Free Fallin', you would hear Running Down a Dream, and by this point, I Won't Back Down was already getting into my subconscious based on that YouTube video that I watched of him doing it live. So I'm listening to this album a lot, and I'm getting into the Petty deep cuts, and on top of that, I've also got my Tom Petty greatest hits. So I'm listening to those albums on repeat. So those Free Fallin', Won't Back Down, and Run Down a Dream are all the greatest hits. And then of course I'm going back and forth between that, the greatest hits, Traveling Wilburys. So I'm getting in this little Tom Petty rotation here with those three albums, where I'm like, all right, I can see myself getting into Tom Petty here. And again, I'm playing Free Fallin' on the guitar, and listening to this stuff. I've got it burnt onto my iPod, listening to it when I'm going to school, my early years of high school, really listening to this, really, becoming invested into the deeper cuts, because again, this album, which is in my top 10 favorite albums of all time, mostly because of sentimental reasons at this point, songs like, the Apartment song really stuck out to me, because I was like, whoa, that's a really catchy song with kind of that, dungo, 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 dungo kind of rhythm to it, that, that 50s style, but on the acoustic guitar. And so that was a song that really stuck with me. I remember listening to that a lot, from high school going into college. That was one of those songs that I just loved. And at one point, it was probably in my top 10 favorite Tom Petty songs. The song All Right For Now, the kind of lullaby, I remember that being beautiful, even with like the false start where he starts and he says 1, 2, 3, 4, do do do, and the whole good night baby, sleep tight my love. It's so beautiful. It's a fantastic song. Then the song You're So Bad, I thought that was kind of a goofy song the first time I heard it. And also around this time I had been given the Tom Petty playback DVD that had all the Tom Petty music videos, or at least the popular ones, the music videos, and the You're So Bad video is one of them. And it had like the the guy kind of like walking around with like the blow up doll, like as his like only companion, because he broke up with his wife. My sister's a swinger dating a singer, took him for all he was worth, so it's following the guy. And it's just weird because like Tom Petty's walking around like this house that's being built, and like there are all of these like like African like tribal dancers behind him, like dancing. It was just really weird. Didn't make any sense, but it kind of fit Tom Petty's humor, the more that I studied about Tom Petty. So that was cool. And then it also had the Running Down a Dream video on it, which was like that weird black and white cartoon, kind of weird animation on that. But then the really cool thing was the video for I Won't Back Down, which I, again, distinctly remember thinking it was so cool to see Jeff Lynne and George Harrison, who, again, at this point, I was recognizing from the Wilburys, because they had that look, that late 80s George Harrison look, that late 80s Jeff Lynne look. And then on top of that, in the video, they throw in Ringo Starr on the drums, playing with, his ponytail. This is like, when Ringo was doing the narration of Thomas the Tank Engine. So you have Ringo with his beard, the ponytail, acting goofy. Even though Ringo doesn't play on that song in the studio version, he's in the video, which is really cool. But I would say probably one of the more personal stories attached to this album. Fast forward a couple of years, again, to the same night that I talked about with my friend Jeremy, who was my former teacher, when he talked about Bob Dylan during my senior send-off gala that I had. Where he quoted Forever Young. He was the one that introduced me to Oh Mercy by Bob Dylan. And so the earlier part of that dinner, again, this is 2012. Again, I'm just about to turn 18, not quite there yet. And what part of the ceremony was, each of the seniors in my small little class of like 15 people at this private school got to pick pictures. We got to send in pictures, make a slideshow of our life that would show after the formal dinner, and we could pick a song that would be played. So some people are playing like these like really like kind of sappy sentimental songs, maybe a song that was like from a Disney movie and stuff like that. Some people that didn't have any idea about music were playing like this really like terrible like techno kind of music and stuff like that. And my friend Jeremy, because again, this was a very strict private school that had, you know, a lot of moral standards, you know, like really confined moral standards. So Jeremy, my friend, who was again a young teacher at the time, was in charge of making sure the songs were appropriate for the slideshow. And again, he's a deadhead, he's a Dylan guy, so I could trust him. And so the song that I wanted in my slideshow was Running Down a Dream from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, because obviously I'm going to graduate high school, chase my dream into college and beyond. And I just thought it was fitting. I thought it was cool. You know, looking back on it, it's a little cliche, but you know, when I was 17, I didn't know any better. So I picked Running Down a Dream. And I remember he was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, that song's gonna be good. Cause like he was like all in, like he didn't listen to it. He's like, yeah, that song, we're gonna put that song in there for you. So I think I was like the third or fourth student to, it might have been alphabetical. So I might have been getting closer to the end because there weren't many people past St. John in my class in terms of the alphabet. So I remember sitting there, I'm at the table with my parents, my two sisters, and my grandparents, as well as, you know, whoever else they had at the table. And I remember like in this big banquet hall, and like the person in front of me, he was just he just was, oh, he was a different kind of guy. He was one of these that had like the techno electronic kind of music. It was just like, ugh, what is this? And then his slideshow ended. So like again, the slideshows are only like 45 seconds to a minute, so you don't get the whole song. But then, you know, the his slideshow fades, and all of a sudden you hear bow no 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 bow now, and like the whole place like fills with the opening riff to Running Down a Dream with Mike Campbell on the guitar. And I just thought that was so cool. I was like, yeah, I'm going out on a bang here. I'm letting them know, you know, that I'm not who they, you know, confine me in to be, kind of thing. So that was really cool, and I'll always associate Running Down a Dream with my senior year of high school and that slideshow. But yeah, so again, this album very important to me. You know, Free Fallin' was a crucial song for me to learn on the guitar early on in my learning. Again, the Wilburys broke off into this album, you know, thanks to my dad for making that Napster CD, and for my mom for also being a big Tom Petty fan, and really, you know, letting me know like how good of a songwriter he was, kind of thing. So Full Moon Fever, if you don't know it, what are you waiting for? Check it out. It's an awesome album, and it's one of those albums that definitely shaped my life. So there you go. Hope you all enjoyed it. That was a fun one to talk about. I've been holding back on that one, but I was like, I've just got to do it. So I went ahead and did it. So let me know what y'all think of the album. Let me know your favorite tracks, that sort of thing. Let me know what you thought of the stories, and yeah, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will talk to y'all real soon. Be good, take care, and we'll see you.